It's been 1 year since the scandal that rocked an entire university. It started with one man, Jerry Sandusky, who was accused and then sentenced to 30 to 60 years. But the scandal has made a lasting impact on both the university and the community. Although the goal is to move forward, the events that got us here have made history. We look back now on the year that changed the Pennsylvania State University forever. It began well before 2011. The crimes, the Second Mile charity, the alerts to police, and the involvement of men as powerful as Joe Paterno. The real bombshell began November 5th, 2011.
That Jerry Sandusky.
A well-known former defensive coordinator for the Penn State Nittany Lion football team was formally charged by a Center County grand jury with 40 counts of molesting 8 boys from 1994 to 2004. Sandusky was a local legend himself, coaching at Penn State for 30 years until 1999. 2 other school officials, then athletic director Tim Curley and former vice president of finance and business Gary Schultz, were each charged with perjury and failure to report after testimony about their knowledge of the child sex abuse incidents.
Certainly, every Pennsylvanian who has any knowledge of this case, who has read the grand jury report, feels a sense of regret and a sorrow to also see careers end. But we must keep in mind that when it comes to the safety of children, there can be no margin for error, no hesitation to act.
November 6th, Joe Paterno issued a statement saying he was aware of an incident assistant coach Mike McQueary reported in 2002. That was the now infamous Sandusky shower incident. During this time, news teams from as far away as New York City began to invade Happy Valley, and it became an international story. On November 8th, Joe Paterno's house became the rallying spot for roughly 200 students. But the next day, November 9th, Paterno announced he would retire at the end of the season. But late that evening, at a Board of Trustees meeting at the Penn Stater, the legendary coach was fired and President Graham Spanier was removed.
Joe Paterno is no longer the head football coach, effective immediately.
Paterno's firing sparked a riot in downtown State College, with a few thousand students taking to the streets. Vehicles were damaged and many, fed up with the media coverage, even flipped a news van. Armed with pepper spray, police patrolled late into the night. Friday, November 11th, thousands of students attended a candlelight vigil on the Old Main Lawn in honor of sexual abuse victims. That Saturday, the Nittany Lions took on Nebraska at Beaver Stadium. Postseason hopes were on the line. What should have been an exciting matchup between the two teams was instead marked by the absence of Coach Paterno, who had held the position since 1965. With many in the crowd dressed in blue for child abuse awareness, the team marched out to the middle of the field. The crowd grew dead silent as both Nebraska and Penn State huddled for a moment of silence.
What manhood looks like, that we would compete with fierce intensity, with the honor and the gifts and the talents that you've given us.
Nearly a week later, Scott Paterno revealed that his 84-year-old father had a treatable form of lung cancer, and, quote, his doctors are optimistic he will make a full recovery. November 30th, a 29-year-old man claimed Sandusky sexually abused him more than 100 times, following the first lawsuit against the university, Sandusky, and his charity, the Second Mile. The week of December 7th, the Office of the Attorney General of Pennsylvania added another 12 counts to the already 40 charges. His wife, Dottie, issued a statement calling the allegations, quote, absolutely untrue.
As the head football coach of this special football program, it is my responsibility to ensure that this football program represents the highest level of character, respect, and integrity in everything we do.
January 6th, New England Patriots offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien was hired as the new head coach of the Nittany Lions. 2 weeks later, rumors circulated around the Penn State community that Joe Paterno had passed away. Student blog site Onward State's report that Paterno had died was picked up by national media outlets. While the death report was inaccurate and the family took to Twitter to refute the report, only hours later on Sunday morning was it officially announced in a statement from the family that the 85-year-old had passed away.
Coaching icon Joe Paterno has died. The news coming out of State College this morning.
Mourners gathered at the Paterno statue all weekend to leave flowers and signs. Days later, the funeral procession made its way through the streets of Penn State's campus and State College, drawing thousands from all over the state.
The Paterno family followed the hearse in the iconic blue football bus with Sue Paterno seated in the front seat, the traditional spot of her late husband on game days.
A public memorial service was held in a packed Bryce Jordan Center.
Today, we are going to show you how much we love you.
The Second Mile announced it will close and send $2.5 million in assets to a charity in Texas. June 5th, jury selection began at the Center County Courthouse in Bellefonte. 7 women and 5 men were picked, most with ties to the university.
His father is an employee at Penn State.
The gut-wrenching day in the trial that has already rocked one of America's most powerful universities.
June 22nd, 17 days after the trial began, the verdict was handed down.
The verdict in the Jerry Sandusky trial, and this evening Sandusky is behind bars after that resounding verdict.
Guilty of 45 of 48 charges against him. A large crowd of media and spectators gathered outside the courthouse.
Who would believe a kid? And the answer to that question is, we here in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, would believe a kid.
July 13th, 8 months after Penn State University commissioned an investigation into its administration, former FBI Director Louis Freeh released his 267-page report outlining the failures of those in charge. The report specifically blamed then University President Graham Spanier, Paterno, Curley, and Schultz.
In our investigation, we sought to clarify what happened, including who knew what and when events happened, and to examine the university's policies, procedures, compliance, and internal controls relating to identifying and reporting sexual abuse of children.
Later that month, the iconic Joe Paterno statue was taken down in the early morning hours, while most students were home on summer break.
No matter what we do here today, there is no action we can take that'll remove their pain and anguish. But what we can do is impose sanctions that both reflect the magnitude of these terrible acts and that also ensure that Penn State will rebuild an athletic culture that went horribly awry.
The next day, the NCAA handed down sanctions, punishing the university with a $60 million fine. The football team must vacate 112 wins, lose scholarships, and face a 4-year postseason bowl ban. NCAA President Mark Emmert faced criticism and hatred from the Penn State community. The Bill O'Brien era began September 1st at Beaver Stadium with a Nittany Lion loss to Ohio University. 2 weeks later, O'Brien would get his first victory against Navy, the first official win for the Nittany Lions since 1997. Jerry Sandusky was sentenced October 9th at the Center County Courthouse. Judge Cleland handed down a 30 to 60-year sentence for the 68-year-old. 3 weeks later, Sandusky was moved to the state prison in Greene, Pennsylvania, over 2 hours away from State College. In less than a year, Jerry Sandusky was charged, found guilty, and locked away for child sex abuse crimes over at least 15 years. Sandusky's victims and the Penn State community are trying to move on and out of the spotlight, starting a new chapter in Penn State history.
And